After I joined, I did get into soft skills development and overall personality development, just sort of got them more organized. Uh, had great years during those years, despite COVID being there and the challenges with COVID. Being the kind of institution we were, we have always been very comfortable with technology. Uh, so many people, many of the industry partners, some of them said,
Hello, everyone, and welcome to FaceTime with Leaders, a podcast series by the Directors Institute, World Council of Directors. I'm Sunny Pancholi, and today we are honored to have a distinguished professional who has made a remarkable impact in the field of career services and educational leadership. With over 2 decades of experience, Ms. Anishya Madan currently serves as the Industrial Liaison Officer of the Office of Career Services at the prestigious Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi. She has been instrumental in shaping the career paths of students across a diverse range of programs whilst also fostering strong industry connections. So, Ms. Madan, thank you for joining us and welcome to FaceTime with Leaders.
thank you, Sari, for this warm welcome. And I look forward to speaking with you.
Great to hear that. So, Ms. Madan, your journey at IIT Delhi has been quite remarkable, especially in shaping the Office of Career Services. So, what I would like to ask you is can you take us back to that pivotal moment in your career that inspired you to step into the role of head of the Offices of Career Services? And also, what experiences or insights led you to this path, and how have they influenced your approach to career development for students?
Thank you, Sunny. If I go back in time, I joined IIT Delhi about 14 years back. And that time, this office was called Training and Placement, which is the normal way of calling it in most places. Uh, Joined it at that time because I was working with industry in a consulting role before that. And this seemed like a good opportunity. At, obviously, a very prestigious place. All of us dream of it. At some stage of after school, every child aspires for IIT in their life. Um, got the opportunity, joined it, and it has been a great journey since then. I've grown the office. That's what I've been told by people since I've joined. Um, Somewhere around 2020, the then director, Professor Ram Gopal Rao, thought that since uh, we were doing not just training and placement for the students, we were doing much more because after I joined, I did get into soft skills development and overall personality development kind of activities for the students, and also workshops just to guide them on their career paths. So he thought it was time to rebrand it since we were growing, and also so that it would give it a bigger push to get into all those areas, rather than just being constricted to that small term of training and placement. So around 2020, we rebranded it to Office of Career Services. I was happy to, yeah, I'm happy he had the faith to make me the founding head at that time. And just set a few more things they were already there, but just sort of got them more organized. Uh, had great years during those years, despite COVID being there and the challenges with COVID. So it was a good journey for me. Uh, Having set it up in the IIT system, normally you have tenures for heads, and then we all go back to what we were before. So now I'm back to being the industrial liaison officer of the institute.
Ms. Madan, thank you for the excellent start to this interview. So, continuing our conversation, you stepping into the role of the founding head of the Office of Career Services at IIT Delhi
Sure.
must have been both exciting and challenging, right? So, can you share some of the initial hurdles you encountered while establishing this new unit? And how did those challenges shape your vision for career services? And what strategies did you employ to overcome them?
So yes, when somebody reposes that kind of faith in you, it comes with a lot of responsibility. And Obviously, none of us likes to fail. Uh, and to add to the fun, COVID happened.
Oh, okay.
So, whatever ways of recruiting had been happening till then, it was a learning for the entire HR fraternity, I believe, because people were used to a lot of physical interviews. Suddenly, physical was not possible, but recruiting still had to be done. Also, getting students used to, interacting through, till then, my experience had been that if somebody did an online interview, it was just to do a tick box because they needed to have their presence on the campus. But now, actually, that it was not a tick box any longer. It was serious business. So we are happy that uh, being the kind of institution we were, we have always been very comfortable with technology. Uh, so many people, many of the industry partners, some of them said, I have a GD. I used to have a GD round. How do I do it online? So we said, don't worry, we will take you through it. I believe we were pioneers in that sense. We've always been pioneers that we helped people understand that how you could run all those processes which you always thought could only be done physically in a virtual mode as well. And learning for our industry partners, learnings for us. Uh, yeah, so the biggest challenge was COVID and shifting everything from a physical mode to an online mode and learning a lot in the process. And now we just take it for granted, right? It's part of life.
Actually, yes. But thank you so much for sharing those insights with us today. And it's fascinating to hear about the challenges you faced in setting up the Office of Career Services and the innovative strategies you employed. All right, so moving ahead, given your experience organizing career fairs and workshops at IIT Delhi, how do you balance the diverse needs of the students across 150 programs when designing career services? Also, I would like to ask you is what insights have you gained about what students truly value in these events, and how do those insights shape your approach to providing tailored support?
See, because we are looking at a very diverse range of not only programs, also the kind of students, the backgrounds of the students. So it can't be a one size fits all. So every year we are trying something new, and I always believe every batch is different. You cannot say that you may feel that I know it all, but believe me, the reason I've been there for so long is that there's new learning every year. And you can't predict what it will be, right? We are dealing with humans. So that's the fun of it. Uh, yeah, but coming down to see, some things are very, they come with legacy because it goes from one generation to the other, that things are happening in the peer group. So if the peer group says that an X kind of a sector is great, there will be a set of students that will be running for that sector. But there will also be some who are not fit for that sector, so you need to handhold them as well. So I believe our role is actually to help the last common denominator. And all the activities that we do are actually geared to helping that set of students, educating them and helping them make the best career choices. Now, again, COVID also got the other kind of, challenges with it, in the sense that peer learning for those 2 years actually did not happen since all the students were isolated. So I think our role became that much more essential in the kind of activities we were doing, because somehow we had to get communication across to them, which was missing from the hostel. There was no hostel interaction at that time, which was a big thing missing in the student experience, so to say. Uh, yeah, so those kind of challenges, and then tailoring programs where at least we could get some industry experts to get to them to give them some insights which normally peers may have been giving them. So getting to the alumni network, trying to organize things at every level, and that way we are blessed in the institution that we are in, that the institution The alumni, we have a great alumni base, and people are always ready to support, both internally and externally.
Great, Ms. Madan. And it's truly enlightening to hear how you navigate the diverse needs of students at IIT Delhi and how those experiences shape the events you organize. All right, so moving ahead, what initiatives could educational institutions implement to better prepare students for careers that emphasize ESG and corporate governance?
See, ESG is now becoming a big buzzword in everywhere. Let me say. So at IIT Delhi, we have specific programs that are geared to those kind of sectors. For example, we have a very strong energy studies department. So, and also many of the other departments are giving those kind of experiences. Now, I don't know, and I'm sure that many of the institutions, you may not be calling it that, but some component of your curriculum would be covering ESG. Uh, and it's just good for them to highlight it. It's more, our role is a mix of HR and marketing. So then you need to wear your marketing hat and sort of cull out whether it's an ESG role or it's any kind of a roles of what is relevant in that role and how the curriculum aligns to that role. Because, like I said, sometimes we are doing it, but we don't realize it. Because for us, it's part of routine. By us, I mean any professional in the normal work that they're doing, right? So sometimes you just need to take a step back and say that, okay, if this is an ESG role, now what part of my curriculum is touching ESG? And what am I teaching in ESG? Do I need to better it? Which is the next step? Maybe not right now, but right now, if I need to be able to fill the talent gap in this particular domain, how do I position my students?
Right, absolutely. It does, Ms. Madan. And it's inspiring to hear about the initiatives that can equip students for success in an ESG focused world now. All right. Ms. Madan, looking ahead in your career, how do you see yourself evolving in leadership roles, particularly in the boardroom? Also, I would like to ask you, and that reminds me of a quote by Michelle Obama that there is no limit to what we as women can accomplish. So, what aspirations do you have for empowering women and promoting inclusivity in corporate governance?
See, I believe I have been a very inclusive person in my teams as well. Uh, and it's not only inclusivity, the gender inclusivity part, it's the overall inclusivity part of it. Uh, Even before people started talking of inclusivity, as an ethos, it just comes naturally that when you are doing something, you need to take along it. Like I said, the last common denominator is important in any activity that one does. That said, as a leader, I always try to inculcate in my team that, we are a team, we are one when we are talking to the external world. Internally, if you have conflicts, we resolve it very as amicably as possible. Um, and yeah, we learn from each other, but we also take everybody along as far as we can. Conflicts will happen. Uh, some people will need some more hand holding than others, but we do it as a team. And I believe we've been pretty good with that up to now. I've been handling pretty large teams in terms of the student body. So the staff is not all, it's a lean staff that I have, but I have over 300 or to 400 volunteers on the ground when I need them. And many of them come back and tell me that they learned a lot, which helps them in their future careers. So hopefully I'm doing something right.
Absolutely, Ms. Madan. And it's truly empowering to hear about your vision for inclusivity and leadership in the boardroom. So that brings us to the last question of the session, and here it is. Could you share your experience with Directors Institute and how it has influenced your professional journey? What specific skills or insights have you gained that you believe are particularly valuable?
uh, my interaction with Directors Institute has been great so far. Uh, the platform that they gave, the learning from it, uh, yes, one knows about corporate governance, but the nuances of corporate governance, those have been very enlightening. Then the sessions with Professor, those sessions that we have with Professor Mr. Jayamurthy, those are really, really enlightening. And I would never miss them. Even a second of them, they're really enlightening. So that's one very good part of this thing. They have a great resource person there, is what I believe. And I believe the way it's structured, the way the platform runs, and all of that, uh, it seems to be good, and I'm sure it will help when one is going forward, because they are trying to make it as comprehensive as possible and covering whatever one would need. The good part is also, I believe, that the 3 year support, that you can access all that information for up to 3 years. I'm sure that will help, because initially, when one will get into the boardroom, we are all going to be novices, right, in that domain. So those few years after you've cleared the exam, I'm sure will be helpful. Yeah, so I believe they've done a good job. The sessions with Mr. Sundareshan have been awesome and great learning opportunities. Uh, One has learned a lot from his experiences, and I believe that is a big USP of this program. I would not miss any of those sessions even for a second. They are full of insights. Thank you.
Great to hear that. Truly great to hear that. And your candid insights are greatly appreciated, Ms. Madan. So thank you so much for taking the time to join us today and share your experiences with us. And we at Directors Institute wish you continued success and all the best in your future endeavors.
Thank you so much, and I really appreciate the time you've taken. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And to all the viewers watching, that concludes our today's episode. We look forward to bringing you more inspiring stories and valuable insights from exceptional leaders in our upcoming episodes. Until then, keep striving for excellence and embracing the journey ahead. Thank you so much and have a nice time.
Thank you.